All right, good morning, everybody. This is the Fantasy Sports Boss with a Thanksgiving Day wrap up. Now, of course, you're probably wondering why I didn't post this yesterday, Friday. Black Friday was a very busy day because I had my high school state championship game, which we did lose 35-7. Kind of a crushing defeat, but you know what? That's how it goes sometimes. So, just moving on from that. And so, got a lot of catching up to do. And like I said, today is going to be a couple of videos, the Thanksgiving game wrap up, and then the Black Friday wrap up between Jets and Miami. I'm going to do that separately. And maybe will be a stream later on sometime Saturday. So make sure you have that notification button hit. But we're going to start out with the Thanksgiving games and the Green Bay Packers. I mean, this was a decent upset, 29-22 over the Detroit Lions. Did not see this coming, certainly. The Packers went in without Aaron Jones, but they made a concerted effort right out of the gate to throw the ball down the field. And we finally saw Christian Watson, a glimpse of the Christian Watson from last season. 5 catches for 94 yards of the score. Very encouraging. But Jordan Love, like, we're starting now to see some firm signs of progress over the last couple of weeks. 22 at 32, 268, 3 touchdowns. He ran for 39 yards on the ground. So Love, you know, you could classify him as one of these, dual threat quarterbacks, which are so valuable in fantasy. And he really got the job done here, and he's playing better. And the Packers, they have a good nucleus of young, explosive receivers. Jaden Reed is another one. He's another guy over the last month who's really starting to come around. The rookie, 4 catches for 34 yards and a score. 2 carries for 16. So he's like Deebo Samuel light. So if you're looking for like the next Deebo Samuel, Jaden Reed seems to be that guy. And he's certainly looking like a wide receiver 3 the rest of the season. As far as the rest of the offense, A.J. Dillon did an A.J. Dillon thing, right? 14 for 43, 3.1 per carry, just absolutely awful. 3 catches for 38 yards, gives him 11 PPR points, which I guess sort of saves his day. Aaron Jones, I don't see him coming back from an MCL sprain. He is historically a slow healer, so I don't see him back for week 13. I'll be pleasantly surprised if he does, but I don't see him coming back. So the Aaron Jones saga continues. On the Detroit side, Jared Goff, he threw a late touchdown to save his day, 29 of 44 for 2 scores, 332. So the yardage was there. The touchdowns are there. And, when he plays at home in the dome, the controlled environment, he's good for 2 touchdowns every week, right? And that's what he did here. The strength of this team, outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown, who obviously is the best, 9 catches for 95 yards. I mean, he's just an impossible cover and a PPR cheat code. That's why I spent the 8th overall pick in my work league on him, despite people saying, "Oh, you picked him too early." Nonsense. But the main strength is this running game. So both David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs are getting it done. Montgomery 15 of 71 with a touchdown on the ground and a 2-point conversion. Jahmyr Gibbs 11 of 54. Gibbs 4.9 per carry, and he Holden 4 for 19. So a couple of things on this. So David Montgomery, again, another touchdown. He scores. I think he has scored in every single game that he finished. It's just, he's the Jamal Williams now in this offense, right? But here's the other thing. So I believe it was 15 PPR fantasy points, and he scored the touchdown, had the 2-point conversion. He's extremely touchdown dependent. If you take that away, right, the 9 points of the touchdown, the 8 points of the touchdown, the 2-point conversion, then David Montgomery did nothing pretty much, right? In a PPR league, at least. In a standard league, he's great. In a PPR league, he did not have a single catch in this game, only 1 target. So, and this is a guy who's capable of catching the ball. But David Montgomery is very touchdown dependent. So that is why in one of my leagues, I did trade him, and I do have regrets about it just because he scores so many touchdowns. But I did make the move to trade him thinking that he's way too touchdown dependent. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs, on the other hand, I mean, this is the league winning guy second half of the season. If you were able to buy low on him, at the end of September, kudos, because he has been unreal. Another rookie getting it done for this team is Sam Laporta. After a couple of quiet weeks, he had a 2-point conversion catch as well. 5 catches for 47 yards and a score. So here's the interesting debate. Who would you rather have going forward, Dalton Kincaid or Sam Laporta? Put it in the message below the video. I'm curious to see who you would prefer out of those two, because both of these guys have been unbelievable. All right, so Dallas 45-10 over Washington. We knew this was going to be ugly for the Commanders, and it was. When you go into these games, when you have these players like Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, and you're going against an inferior team, you always go in fearing that okay, this game's a blowout. They're going to be taken out of the game late. I always have that innate fear as well, because it neuters your prime players a little bit when they're sitting on the bench in the fourth quarter. So you're rooting for the Commanders to keep it a competitive game, which you know what they sort of did in the first half, and then it got away from them. But here's the thing: Dak Prescott has been the best quarterback in fantasy. And the whole season changed for Dallas when Mike McCarthy finally gave in on his run-heavy approach and just put the ball in Dak's hands and said, throw it down the field. And him and CeeDee Lamb have been the best at their respective positions ever since. Like, it's just crazy. Dak Prescott, 22 of 32, 331, 4 touchdowns. He's playing pitch and catch with everybody, and he's spreading it around. Brandon Cooks is a strong wide receiver 3 now, 4 for 72 in his score. CeeDee Lamb, only 4 catches for 53 yards, but luckily he scored late and he had a 2-point conversion. That saved his day because, you know, prior to that, it wasn't anything. And it was so frustrating because I own CeeDee Lamb in my struggling friends and family league, and it just seemed like nothing was happening for him. And then he had that last late score. Jake Ferguson, only 1 catch. It was a big one, 35 yards, but, you know, he's on the fringe as far as starting. And I stupidly started him over Trey McBride in my friends and family league because I thought the matchup was just too good. Now, I did put McBride as a flex, but yeah, that wasn't my best decision of the week there. So, and here's the thing too, Tony Pollard now has scored 2 games in a row. And unlike last week when it really wasn't that impressive when you looked at the raw numbers, this one was 13 of 79 and a touchdown on the ground. 6 catches for 24 yards. So this is the Tony Pollard we spent a first-round pick on, right? This is the guy who we all universally liked. And if he can complement Dak Prescott like this the rest of the way, then we're good. We are absolutely good. Now on the other side, Sam Howell. Listen, he stands in the pocket. He slings it. I have all the respect for him. I've been high on him all summer. I still am. 28 of 44, 300 yards. No touchdown passes. He threw a pick, but he did rush for a score, 13 yards on the ground. He's capable of more on the ground too, but you know, I have him for next week in my league with Lamar Jackson. So I'm going to start him against Miami. That's looking pretty scary right now. I don't, you know, especially the way Miami's defense is, but at least he's throwing the ball a lot, and he's throwing for 300 yards almost every game. Curtis Samuel was the big beneficiary, 9 for 100. It seemed like it was the quietest 9 for 100 I've ever seen. Like, I don't even remember Curtis Samuel really out there. That's how quiet it was. Terry McLaurin, 4 for 50, and Jahan Dotson, 5 for 52. So these 3 guys are all eating to an extent, but only in the wide receiver 3 realm. Brian Robinson, 15 for 53. It was a dud for him. 2 catches for 11 yards, and that's the way it went with that one. All right, and then the final game, Seattle and San Francisco. We knew with a Geno Smith with an elbow injury, it was going to be another ugly game. And that's exactly what it turned out to be, 31-13. And if you are a fantasy owner of DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett, you're pulling your hair out, right? I mean, this is so frustrating right now. Geno Smith was only 18 of 27 with a pick, no scores, 180 yards. DK Metcalf, 3 for 32. Tyler Lockett, 3 for 30. They didn't even get to 7 PPR points. Like, this is bad. And they have Dallas next week. If you're a Tyler Lockett owner, like I am in both of my leagues, I benched him in one league for this week. I'm benching him in both next week. I am not playing Tyler Lockett anymore. Jackson Smith and Jigba was 2 for 41, which, you know, led the 3 of them in yardage, which is crazy. Zach Charbonnet took advantage of some late garbage time catches to have, you know, a somewhat okay day. Only 14 of 47 on the ground. And this is what I said last week. Yes, it's exciting that Charbonnet is now the guy. I don't think Kenneth Walker's playing next week either, but the schedule is brutal. They're playing the 49ers again in week 14. And then, you know, it's a rough schedule going forward for this team. So I would not automatically assume Charbonnet is a start. He did catch 4 for 11 out of the backfield. Brock Purdy, you know, he can't be perfect every game. 21 of 30, 209, a score and a score and an interception. Christian McCaffrey did his thing again, 19 of 114 on the ground. 2 catches, 5 for 25 through the air. Like, it's just unfair. You hope in your fantasy league that the Christian McCaffrey owner doesn't make the playoffs. Like, that's what you're hoping for. When you play against the owner of McCaffrey in your league, you're hoping against hope that you could just survive on like a 15 to 17 point game. Like, that's what you're hoping for. But more times than not, it goes the other way. It was Deebo Samuel's turn to have the big game, 7 of 79, 4 for 15, and a touchdown on the ground. So he's still getting some work on the ground. Brandon Ayuk had a late score, 2 for 50 in the passing game. Otherwise, it was just a complete dud for him. George Kittle, a dud as well, 3 for 19. So, again, when you have 3 guys, like with the Eagles, with Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, and A.J. Brown, somebody's not going to eat each week, and it just happened to be both, it really happened to be Kittle, because at least Ayuk got into the end zone, so Kittle was a rough game there. But anyway, guys, that's the wrap-up for Thanksgiving. Look for the Jets-Miami wrap-up shortly thereafter, and keep that notification and subscribe button hit as well.